Yo, cool question. Remember when there was a new mixtape every other day, and you would just sit there, watch a few clips, and think, damn, they gonna be tough in the league one day. One day is John Wall splitting two defenders like it's nothing. The next day is Aquille Carr, 5'6", skying over a guy a foot taller than him for a block. That was really a whole era, man. The NBA mixtape era. So today we're dissecting that era. What actually happened to NBA mixtapes? Where'd they go? Did they die? Or did they just turn into something else wearing a different outfit? Picture this. No press credentials and no film crew. Just a camera and enough gas money to reach the next gym. Because somewhere out there was a kid worth driving for. And that's how Ballislife started in 2005. Matt Rodriguez and Jonathan Durden loved the game so much, they taped entire tournaments themselves, then spent the entire night turning that footage into something the rest of the world could see. I guess you really could say ball is life.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright, my fault. Then, in April 2005, YouTube was born. And 4 years later, the genre found one of its first cornerstones, John Wall's senior mixtape in 2009. 2 minutes and 40 seconds in, he splits two defenders on the dribble that has no business working, nearly loses the ball, and still finishes the play like it was rehearsed. 11 million views. To this day, it's one of the most viewed sports mixtapes in all of YouTube. But we can't act that this was invented from nothing. It's the same knowledge as And One in the old Street Ball tapes, just handed down to teenagers instead of grown men on the blacktop. Every generation finds its own way to say this is worth your attention. And sometimes a mixtape didn't just make a name, it made a movement. And that's the story of Jelly Fam. Isaiah Washington and Javon Quinterly turned a ridiculous floating finger roll into a signature they called the Jelly. Ballislife and Hoop Mixtape put it on camera, and within that same year, it spread to all the blacktops across America. That's the kind of reach a mixtape had. It didn't just crown a player, it could hand an entire culture something new to imitate. And once the format proved itself, it multiplied, and every mixtape had its own signature. Now, it's time to go over the most iconic mixtapes during this era. First on our list is Kyrie Irving. No dunks doing the talking, just a handle so tight and so sudden that defenders looked like they were guessing. The number 2 recruit in the 2010 class, and watching it back, it's crazy that a teenage version of Kyrie had one of the most creative basketball minds on the court. Then you got Austin Rivers in 2011, the number 2 recruit in the country, and his tape scored to the Gladiator soundtrack, opening with him promising he was about to go off. It was one of the most coldest intros at the time, and is still one of the most iconic intros to this day. Then we got Andrew Wiggins in 2013, Maple Jordan, the most hyped wing prospect since LeBron back in 2002. He was also viewed as the future of Canada, one day bringing back gold to Canadian soil, but on the basketball court this time instead of the ice. Then we got 7 Forts in that same year, Hoop Mixtape's most watched video ever, titled outright the best 14-year-old in the country, 16 million views on a true freshman. The next year, we got Thon Maker's tape in February 2014, and it reads like science fiction. City League Hoops TV calls him a revolutionary 7-footer, and by the next morning, a newspaper is comparing him to a 7-foot hybrid of Kevin Durant and Chris Paul, a high schooler. He was one of the first prototypes of we know now as unicorns or aliens. And remember when Ben Simmons was actually like that? In Mount Verde Academy, we seen Ben Simmons just completely dominate. A 6'10" wing that had the handle of a guard can finish between anybody and defend the 1 through 5 with ease. We thought Ben Simmons was going to be one of them ones. We even said we did not need LeBron no more. What the fuck were we saying back in the day? Then we got Aaron Gordon. He was just soaring through everybody and easily one of the most underrated mixtapes during this era. This is where we saw glimpses of one of the greatest dunkers in basketball history. And then we got Marcus LoVett. When Marcus stepped in the court, you already know it was showtime. Every time Marcus had the ball, the defenders were on skates. Truly one of the most entertaining players I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. He could break down anybody, anytime, anywhere. But let's go back to 2009, because 4 months after Wall's tape, Hoop Mixtape released a 100-second reel of a 6'10", 17-year-old named Perry Jones. Perry had a smooth inside game, great athleticism, and great instincts. I honestly thought he was going to be one of the ones when he made it to the NBA. But, as we learn in the future, that high school talent doesn't mean shit in the NBA. There's levels to this. Then we got the creator of the Segu Hezi, Ronaldo Segu. One of the deadliest Hezis in the entire basketball world, and one of the most dangerous players in the 1v1 circuit. Then we gotta go back to where we started, Aquille Carr. The man was 5'6", sometimes matched up against players nearly a foot taller, and somehow the mismatch kept working in his favor. Nobody was able to guard him. He was too quick and too crafty for almost everybody on the court. He was able to take and make any shot on the court at any time. And may I remind you, at 5'6", he was able to block those same players. And we can't forget about Trae Jefferson out of Milwaukee. He carried a lot of that same DNA a few years later, undersized by every single metric, built almost exactly like Carr, and just as reliant on pure craft to survive the bigger bodies. His tape never reached the same scale of fame, but anyone who watched it recognized exactly what they were looking at, the same gift running through a different kid. And before the internet ever got to know LaMelo on his own, there was the tape that introduced the entire family at once. Ballislife, the BallWrld are the best show in America, captured Chino Hills high school running teams off the floor. Lonzo, the oldest, already playing like a 6'6" point guard from an entirely different sport. LiAngelo scored in bunches, and LaMelo, still as a freshman, already doing things on camera that made grown commentators pause the tape to make sure they seen it right. That team went undefeated at 35-0 and had a state championship with a mixtape that made an entire family famous before any of them ever played a single minute in college. And the last one, Zion. Ball's mixtape did not hedge. It called him the best mixtape player of his generation. Millions of people across the globe thought we are looking at the next LeBron James. The man was doing things on a high school basketball court that grown men in the NBA could never do. Now, before we move forward, it's worth sitting with how these stories actually ended, because a mixtape was never proof of anything. It was belief, and belief can only take you so far in the basketball world. Some of it delivered exactly what it promised, and some didn't. Kyrie Irving became one of the greatest ball handlers the sport has ever produced and won an iconic championship in 2016. Andrew Wiggins spent years being written off as a disappointment before becoming an all-star starter and winning a title with Golden State. Aaron Gordon became an NBA champion and a dunk contest legend. Ben Simmons won Rookie of the Year and made multiple All-Star teams, whatever complications came later after that. John Wall became a 5-time All-Star. Lonzo Ball carved a real respected NBA career, and his little brother didn't just make the league. LaMelo was an All-Star before he turned 21. And Zion was everything we thought he would be, but man, he can't stay healthy for shit. And for some of them, the hype simply just didn't match the results. 7 Woods went out to North Carolina and averaged 1.8 points across 94 games, never played an NBA minute. Pierre Jones made it, but blew out his knee too early. Marcus LoVett went to China. Ronaldo Segu went overseas. Trae Jefferson was tough in college but never got the chance to go pro. Thon Maker was a complete bust. Isaiah Washington and Javon Quinley was subpar players overseas. And one of the icons of the mixtape era, Aquille Carr, was at his best in a semi-professional league. That was always the game underneath the format. For every prophecy the mixtape got right, there's another one that just stayed a really good 4 minutes of tape forever. But no format holds its shape forever. December 2016, LaMelo Ball is still in high school, pointing at the logo in mid-court, walks up and pulls it from there without a flicker of hesitation, and somebody posts it through Ballislife's account. 13 seconds long, 4.8 million views, 17,000 retweets, on a clip a tenth the length of an actual mixtape, and that was a turning point. You no longer needed the whole produced package. One impossible 13 seconds and a fast enough platform would do the job for you. And you cannot tell this part of the story without LaVar Ball, because he saw it coming before almost anyone. Rather than wait for Ballislife to tell his son's story, he built that himself. Big baller brand, a shoe line, eventually his own league. It didn't hold together, but the instinct underneath it was exactly right. Why hand your own story for somebody else to tell? So here's the honest account why it changed. First, the internet simply moves faster than a 4-minute mixtape could keep pace with. Instagram, then Twitter, then eventually TikTok asked why anyone should wait. The audience never lost interest in the feeling. It just wanted the feeling delivered immediately. Second, House of Highlights began in August 2014 as one student at UCF, Omar, posted NBA highlights out of the same devotion that built Ballislife. And within a couple of years, Bleacher Report brought him in, reportedly because his account was outperforming the competition by 10 to 15 times the engagement. One person's love of the game became a media operation almost overnight. Third, once everyone understood a mixtape could carry real financial value, access tightened. Gyms began requiring credentials. Programs signed exclusive deals. The era of simply showing up with a camera priced itself out of existence. And lastly, the NBA itself learned the lesson and the formula. Teams built their own content departments. Players began posting their own highlights directly. The outside storyteller became less necessary because everyone had learned to tell their own story. And the story didn't stop at the decade's edge. it kept unfolding further down the road. The mixtape didn't vanish into nothing. It became the foundation for everything that followed it. House of Highlights, Overtime, a generation of kids who grew up on Ballislife and Hoop Mixtape and then built the next version themselves. Faster, shorter, made for a phone instead of a desktop browser. Nothing here got bought out. It just got passed down. So that's the mixtape era, start to now. If you grew up refreshing Ballislife waiting on the next tape, tell me which one made you a believer. I already know Wall's gonna show up more than once. Tell me the one that aged the worst too. I want both of them. Because somewhere right now, a kid is doing something remarkable in front of 40 people who have no idea what they're watching. And somebody's about to pick up a camera and go find them. That part has never stopped. If you made it this far, that's rare enough on its own. So hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. We out.